Hi, and thanks for joining me today. So with this video, I'm beginning a new feature, and that is to answer questions that you have asked. And as we move forward in time, I hope to be able to get to as many of your questions as I possibly can. So today's question comes from an anonymous user on Tumblr.
Hi Oliver, I'm an adult wanting to start learning the cello, but I'm feeling confused about buying my first instrument. Would you recommend buying a new cello and having it set up by a luthier, or buying a secondhand cello from a luthier? Ideally, I'd like a cello that will last me a few years while I'm learning and progressing, and by that time I hope to be working full-time so I can afford to upgrade. Would a student cello that's been set up suit me until then? Thanks.
Thanks for sending in this question. It's actually an excellent question. But before we get started, there are a couple things that are worth mentioning from the start. First, I would recommend checking out my video on purchasing a new instrument. It should answer a lot of your questions. Next, you need to begin by determining what your budget is on this. A good rule of thumb is to spend as much as you can afford to. It's generally a bad idea to economize unnecessarily when you're purchasing a musical instrument. Now, I kind of get the feeling that you have sort of set up three categories of instruments. The first category is new from a luthier. The second category would be used from a luthier. And the third category is student instruments. I would suggest that these delineations that you're making are kind of artificial. Consider for a moment the idea of new versus used. In the world of string instruments, especially those in the violin family, instruments most of the time tend to get better as they get used more. And if you look at an extreme example, if you were to get your hands at a Stradivari, clearly it's been used before and you're going to be hard-pressed to find something with higher quality. Another differentiation that you're making, a student versus a non-student instrument, I think that's also kind of artificial. I think probably a better category delineation would be purchasing from a luthier and purchasing from anybody else. As I've said to many people many times, it is almost better to purchase from a luthier. So sure, it is possible to buy an instrument online or from Craigslist or from a neighbor or from some other online kind of situation. But it is greatly preferable to go with a luthier, or at the very least some accessible dealer that specializes in string instruments. It is possible to go with an online kind of a source, but you should only do that only as kind of a last resort and with a great deal of caution. So if I had to sum up, I think I would mention three things in particular. First, determine your budget. Second, try your hardest to obtain an instrument from a luthier. And lastly, don't be in such a rush to upgrade, sort of see how it's going, and as I mentioned elsewhere, this first instrument might last you longer than you may have expected. Something else worth mentioning, when you're finally ready to upgrade, you should be able to sell your first instrument for pretty much the same amount that you purchased it for. This is assuming, of course, that you are willing to part with it and that you've been taking good care of it all along. And it's entirely possible that that first instrument, if you selected it carefully, may in fact last you a great deal longer than you may have expected. So best of luck with your purchase. I hope you will let me know how it goes. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.